Hello, hello, everyone. Hope everyone's having a good morning. Today is January 31st, 2024, and we have a special treat for you today. This is actually today going to be the first in a series of monthly interviews that'll take place on the last Wednesday of each month here at the Future Fiction Academy YouTube. I'll be interviewing members of the FFA as well as other professionals in the AI industry as it relates to writing. If you're a member of the FFA and you have an interesting or inspiring story of how the AI has helped you in your writing career and you'd like to do an interview with me, I'd love to hear from you. Message me on Discord and we can discuss a possible interview and we'll see how that goes. Please remember to like and subscribe if you have not already so you can receive alerts to all the fun and interesting stuff that we're releasing on YouTube this year. Thank you all. Don't forget, like and subscribe. I'm Michelle with the Future Fiction Academy, and I hope you enjoy this interview.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Michelle Hinojosa. Staff member of the FFA. Today we're having a really fun interview. It's the first of many in this interview series that I'm doing. We have with us Lynn Jordan, who is a member of the FFA and a very skilled AI user. Lynn, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. I retired from a career in IT, and I have also been writing for publication for more years than I want to admit. So I was able to combine those two into writing with AI. And since I have a passion for teaching, I've been able to be fortunate enough that I've also been teaching writing with AI. I found my spots.
How do you like teaching? Do you find it different than teaching other type of things since you are teaching writers?
No, because I have been teaching writing and writers for a lot of years, and one thing I like about teaching AI is that it makes me keep up to date and keep honing my skills so I can actually teach it. The best way to learn
Yeah,
something is to teach it.
good point. And it's constantly changing. It's going to be doing so for quite a while, I imagine.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's just when once you think you've got a foothold on this, hey, just kidding. Here's a little landslide. Climb back up.
New
That's my
features,
favorite
things
part. Yeah,
change.
exactly. And then the prompt you worked yesterday no longer works today,
No,
so you gotta
no, no. You have to
gotta
start
keep on our
over.
toes. Exactly. How do you think AI, just the transition from writing traditionally to writing with AI or AI assisted, how do you think that has impacted your creative process?
I've always had plenty of ideas, and AI has given me plenty more. I have enough to keep myself busy for the rest of my life for sure, as long as it doesn't
You
throw any more my way, and it will.
Yeah, it sure will. As far as the ideas, are you finding the more you're working with AI, the better ideas you're getting, the more fleshed out just through the prompts, or what is your experience?
I really like to chat with the AIs, and I usually ask it to give me premises first, and then I try to throw in some complications, and then I ask it to throw in complications, and it's really a back and forth process.
So it's almost like role playing, but instead of being the characters, you're just going back and forth with
Mhm.
actual the plotting itself. That's fun. I've tried that a few times. I've tried some role playing through like role playing out characters, try to figure out how they would act too. It's actually really fun with the AI. A lot of people don't realize just how lifelike the AI can be
Mhm,
if you
mhm.
prompt it properly.
And I do realize it's a stupid computer, but you
Sometimes it
can't
doesn't
get
feel
the
like
good
it.
stuff. No,
Yeah, sometimes the random responses it gives are just so on point. You're like, "Oh, wait,
Mhm,
is there
mhm,
someone actually watching me? What's going on?"
mhm, mhm.
You've been doing AI, you've been using AI a lot, you've been teaching AI. You have, as you said, you have a lot of ideas. Can you name a specific project where the AI really played a significant role where you were like, "Wow, this is it. This is like the sweet spot you found."
Of course, there's so many. In fact, if it weren't for AI, I probably wouldn't have gotten back into writing fiction because I had been away from writing fiction for so long. And but the one project I can think of is our we're doing a shared world Willow Creek not a series, but everybody's writing their own books, but we're all setting them in Willow Creek. And the reason we're using Willow Creek is because that is such an AI cliche. If you ask for a small town, you're going to get Willow Creek. So we decided, hey, let's use this as a shared world and everybody can write their own story. And I'm writing a sweet romance and other people are writing paranormal and you know Willow Creek is a very versatile place.
And I have to ask, Willow Creek is pretty well known, especially like in California. Are there Bigfoots involved?
Not not in this current work of mine. People are
Okay.
doing Bigfoot,
Are
and
they?
I will probably do a Bigfoot sooner or later.
Awesome. I just remember the movie, like there was a movie Willow Creek, and then just being in California, always hearing about Willow Creek and the Bigfoots and all that. So that's just what first thing that comes to mind for me.
It's the Bigfoot capital of the world, is the one in
Mhm.
California. Leland told me yesterday that there's one in Arkansas.
Really?
So, yeah,
I didn't know that.
I
Well,
didn't
that's
either.
awesome. Maybe Bigfoot will start using AI and start writing some books about himself.
Maybe
You wouldn't know, right?
we could always interview the AI as the character Bigfoot.
There you go. Pretend to be the Bigfoot.
Mhm.
Awesome. And your experience with doing this, especially like with the shared projects, how do you think AI is changing like the landscape of creative writing?
I think more people are going to be able to write. I I know it's gonna be like when self-publishing first came out. Is there gonna be some good and some not so good, but I think it will get more people interested in writing. I hope it will get more people interested in reading. And the people who are really interested in writing, I hope it will develop their skills so that they become better writers and can actually utilize AI as it's meant to be. It's a tool. It's your writing partner. It's certainly not gonna write a book for you.
100%. Yeah. And you had referenced like how when self-publishing had started, the kind of those, there was some like backlash with that, which we're seeing some of that with AI right now. But do you feel like, I believe, well, I'll let you answer first. Do you feel that that's going to kind of like slow down and go to the back burner the way now self-publishing is more accepted with writing with AI will be in the
No,
future?
I think it will be. I When self-publishing came out, everybody started putting up books. And there were some books that had the same sentence over and over and over, and that was just what the book was. And I think that with the AI, some people will have AI generate prose and publish it as is. And that will get the same kind of response that the one sentence books got, which was not much. Because it's your readership that weeds things out.
Mhm.
And so I think, and I really hope that the people who are the most vocal about not liking AI, you can tell that they don't know much about it, that they haven't really used it. And so I think that once the first wave of the direct that gets published is over, that it will become acceptable. And I'm old enough and I've been in the writing computer industry long enough that in 1984, I talked to the Romance Writers of America about writing with a computer, using a computer. And there were people who sitting in that room that said, I will never write with a computer. That's cheating. And the next year they were back saying, what word processor do you use? So I think we'll have the same kind of progression.
That's pretty much the same way I feel. I think there's a lot of fear that the AI is going to take the works of authors or take the jobs of authors, but I think there has to be a happy medium where you learn how to work with the technology or you get left behind,
Mhm.
which is unfortunate, but it's a sad reality. That's what happens with technology. You could just
Right.
there's a history of it, like you said, even with the computers.
Yeah. You have to learn how to use the newer tools as they come out.
Mhm.
And that's just part of it. I know there are probably people that didn't wanna use a typewriter when the typewriter first came out.
Yeah. They want to put down the quill to do the tap, tap, tap. Like,
Yes.
so what do you think one of the biggest advantage of using AI in work in creative writing is right now?
I think it can speed up the process, and it's also good for, brainstorming. It's wonderful for brainstorming, whereas we used to have writing groups, and we'd get together, and we'd throw ideas around, and a lot of us would take a week every year or 6 months, go off to a retreat, and actually plot books for the next 6 months to a year, however long often we met. Now you can do that, have the same sort of interaction in the middle of the night if you wanna bounce an idea off of AI. And you can also get it to give you some hints get it to give you maybe some plot twists, and you can use it for evaluation after you've written. You can have it look at a piece of writing and tell you the strengths and the weaknesses and which parts you may want to change. But once again, it's just like a critique group is you don't have to take everybody's advice. You don't have to take the AI's advice.
If you take everyone's advice, you're never gonna have a book. You're gonna be changing everything so
Right.
often.
And it won't make sense because you have this idea here and that idea there and this idea here.
No, 100%. As far as like when you're working with it with brainstorming, have you comparison? Are you saving a lot of time with your brainstorming, your planning, your plotting with the AI versus when you were doing it traditionally?
Yes, absolutely. But because I can talk with my brainstorming partner more than once a week.
Good point. And it doesn't sleep.
You're right.
And you don't have to take it out to lunch to get the input. It's not cheaper.
Now, people
so-
get upset. You call them at 1:00 in the morning. And, I have this idea. What do you think?
I know you're at Thanksgiving dinner, but could you put the turkey down for a second? I have an
Right.
idea to run by you. That's funny. Oh, and that is Lynn's little cute birdie. He's adorable. That's funny. So is it when you're actually going through this process, you're doing the brainstorming, you're getting this outlines, whatever you're doing. How do you personally ensure the originality and the authenticity in your work when you're using AI?
That's a given because you can even with people. You and I could come up with a concept, and if we were to write it, yours would be totally different than mine. And even if we tried to write something together, I had a critique group that decided we were going to write a joint book. And so we did brainstorming and we figured out what kind of book everybody liked, and we were going to put it all together. And by week 2, everybody was doing their own thing because I didn't like what everybody else was doing. If we took the same chat from ChatGPT and had the same premise, we would go off in just totally different directions.
100%. I think that's one thing also to keep in mind with AI. Our experiences kind of shape how we write and what we write. And the AI really doesn't, while the AI could give us a lot of great ideas, it really doesn't have that emotional memory behind it. So I think that's one thing maybe people don't realize or don't really remember when they're worried about the AI is it can tell you stories, but it can't really tell you how it felt to go through it. And that's something that like think
Mhm.
the author has to bring themselves into the works. Do you
Yeah,
agree with
and
that?
yes, and every author has their own voice and their own word choice, and the AI can't really do that. Even, people say, "It trained on my book." Not really.
The way it trains is really interesting too, because you can't just shove a book in and be like, here, train on this. It's bits and pieces, words here, little partial sentences, which is another thing I think is a great fear out there. The fear of like the boogeyman is my book's being shoved in. Now they can replicate the book entirely when if you understand the way AI works, that's actually not possible. Like at least
No.
not at this point in the game. And hopefully no one ever abuses that if it becomes possible in the future. But I think that's just one thing. There's a lot of fear around it. And I think
Mhm.
that's something that we have to work through and hopefully just put
Yeah.
some knowledge out there for people.
And you have to worry about that more with search engines than you do with AI. Because if
Agree.
you type in a phrase into a search engine, if there's a book out there that it can index on the internet, it will bring it up for you.
I didn't even think
Which
about
is
that. That's a really good point.
the AI doesn't work that way.
Yeah. So if anything, you would think that people would be more up in arms over the search engines than the AI.
Right. And it's like everything that we have read affects our writing. And as humans, we've probably read maybe thousands of books.
Mhm.
The AI has read hundreds of thousands, millions of books. So actually, I, as a person, am more likely to plagiarize than AI with that great database of knowledge.
Yeah, and even if not direct plagiarization, just adopting the styles of books we enjoy, we do that unknowingly, like just subconsciously. If we like something, we're gonna latch onto it, and our brains are gonna use that to process. So there's really no way not to like piggyback on the ideas of others because there's really, I mean, there's not a lot of original ideas left out there. Like everyone's taking
No.
ideas and modifying for themselves.
Mhm, mhm. And the AI cliches that come up so often are there because they have appeared in the training data, because they do show up that much.
Yeah.
And that's not something that the AI created all on its own.
Mhm. That whole my favorite one is the "We're in this together. We'll get through this
Yes.
together" stuff. Like where it wraps up everything. Every at the end of every chapter, they're gonna get through this together.
Yes.
It's like I love your optimism, but no, this is a horror story. No, they're not.
Yeah.
Awesome. How do you see AI influencing like the future of storytelling? What do you see for AI in the creative process?
I see more people being able to get their ideas out. I think it will, I've already seen it allow people who say, I can't write, I have no writing skills, be able to come in and actually use it. The storytelling is what the AI cannot do. That is strictly a human creative endeavor.
100%. And it just goes back again to the life experiences. I think a lot of
Mhm,
it in the AI
exactly.
because it's generated. And it's really hard to, even though it seems like the AI is spouting out this amazing stuff, it's still just randomly generated words. It's just going on what
Mhm.
words make the most sense. The storytelling, while it sometimes seems pretty great, there's still a lot of flaws in it that have to be edited by the writer.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In
So
fact,
I mean,
I
speaking of
really I really get a kick out of I like to argue with the engines, and it will give me something, and I treat it like I would one of my writing students is, "Why would this person do that? Why would you do this? Why would you make this choice?" And usually I get a, "Oh, I'm sorry. I let me try again."
That's funny. And like speaking of like the future of storytelling, the writing process, and how AI generates things, can you give us a story, maybe like a fun little story or something of how the AI actually surprised you when you were using it during your creative process?
I I like to ask it for choices. I'm all about options. And so I'll go in and say, okay, what complication could occur here in this story? And it's given me some good ones. It's given me some not so good ones. And I've gone back and forth with it about why would this be and choose choose one, but oh, that's good. But how about this?
So you prompt it along, like you're just expanding
Absolutely.
on what it says.
Absolutely.
Do you find like when you're doing that, you're actually getting more richer answers and details like the longer the conversation goes, or how does
Yes,
that go
yes.
for you?
And the one thing you have to understand is AI was trained on a lot of writing, but it was trained on good writing, it was trained on bad writing. And it absolutely makes the same mistake that beginning writers make. Now, it usually starts the story way ahead of when the story actually starts. And beginning writers do that. You have to get the story in your head so you get it down, but your story actually starts in like chapter 3.
Mhm.
Another thing is beginning writers tend to tell instead of showing, and it's really good about that. Sometimes it's not so good with story logic. So you just have to take it just exactly like you would if your junior writing partner or your writing student and teach it how. Now it with the limited context window, it can learn within that window and then it forgets because the window's used up and then you start a new chat or you start a new but so you have to keep nagging it. You have to reiterate that you do want it to be shown. You want character action, not dialogue tags. You want so if you keep after it, you can actually come out with something pretty good on your first draft.
Awesome. How long would you say that the process would normally take you? Like you're having this conversation with the AI. Let's say you're just trying to, figure out just a chapter, whatever it is. How long do you find the process normally takes you? Like when you start chatting with it? I know it probably varies from when you
Mhm.
start chatting with it to when you actually have something you feel like you could work with. What's your average amount of time you spend?
It's much, much shorter than when I'm arguing with myself over a particular chapter. And I like to do it in smaller chunks because that's how AI works. When I write myself, sometimes I'll write a whole book, but then I'll have to go back and something will change in the middle. So it saves me time that way. But if I would say it's in the 2 to 4 hour range if I'm focusing on a chapter, and with AI, my chapters are shorter than they used to be. If I can focus on that, then depending on how well I prompted it in the first place and how well it's following what I want, it's actually there's some models that like to go off and write their own story. And sometimes I encourage that. I say, "Oh, go ahead and we'll see what you want to do because you're not doing what I want to do." But so I think it does speed up the process once you've got the meat of the chapter fleshed out.
Yeah. I agree. I remember just mentioned going off the rails. Oh my goodness, today I was doing a live and I had to try 4 times to get the live to have the characters find a specific little puzzle box I wanted. Instead of a
Mhm.
puzzle box, it was putting tapestries everywhere. They were jumping and traveling through tapestries. And I'm like, what is going on?
It's
I
like,
just literally wanted to find something. So there is some frustration with that, which I think intimidates a lot of newer people. But
mhm,
you just have to learn to work through that. And
that's
like you're
true.
saying, the creative process, you just keep plugging away and asking it and
Yeah,
questioning it, seeing what it wants. And just, a
and
lot of the times I'll go
you have to work with the mood of the AI. Now,
pretty much.
you can if one of them's totally going off like that, you can try changing the model, and sometimes but unfortunately, it seems like all of the models go crazy at the same time. So if you're actually in there and you're generating and it's good, you wanna keep generating. I know sometimes I've failed to go to bed because this is working, and I know tomorrow it may not be. But if it isn't, save yourself some frustration, and that's the time to edit.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because you never know. It could be the moon cycle, or maybe the way
Mhm.
the sun is setting against the
Yeah,
horizon. Yeah, out.
sunspots, the solar flares, whatever, I don't know. I think they just go off their meds, and
The little
I didn't
terabyte
mean to do
minutes.
that.
Almost did a spit take. So, let's see. How would you, or what kind of advice would you give to someone who's newer in regards to how to balance AI with their traditional writing style if they're just getting started?
It Be open-minded about AI, and I strongly, strongly suggest that you come into AI with a new project that you don't care anything about. One you haven't plotted, one you haven't well, you can ask the AI for a plot and go from there. That way, it will help you learn the software you're using and how to work with AI. If you try to say you have a half-finished book, and this is the voice of experience because this is what I did. I came in with a book that I couldn't finish myself, and it's been sitting around for 20 years. And so I said, "Okay." And it nothing was working out the way I wanted it to because I didn't understand enough about the way the world building needed to be. It didn't understand the way my voice works, and I didn't understand how it worked. I think the best thing that happened was that I needed to teach a class, and of course, my field's romance. So I write all sorts of genres of romance. But somebody said what we really need is fantasy. I read fantasy. I don't write fantasy. So I said, okay, AI, help me write fantasy. I didn't care how it. I didn't care about the storyline. I didn't care about the plot. I didn't care about the characters, and I didn't care about the writing. it helped me to actually figure out the software at the same time that I was working on a body of work that I didn't care for at all. I wasn't invested in.
Yeah. That actually opens the door for writers to actually explore genres and maybe find one they actually do love and they don't even realize it because they didn't have the process set up. So I think that's actually pretty huge. And that
Right.
actually leads into my next question. In what ways has AI expanded your own creative boundaries?
Well, it's able enabled me to go out into different genres that I wouldn't have. And I know what I was running into, I saw what Elizabeth ran into the other day, is when we're doing a class and we say, okay, give me a genre, and we start with a story from a genre that, or a story that's not ours.
Mhm.
If you try to do that with a story that is yours, you tend to get hung up on the minor details and you can't cover as much in a class.
Mhm.
So I have a story started with practically every class I've ever taught. And some of them aren't bad. Some of them I will probably write. Usually at the end of a class, I'll say, I will write this. If anybody wants it, they can have it. Just take it.
Okay. Yeah. But there are some that you keep. Ooh, this one's mine.
Like I said, even if everybody in the class took that same premise, it wouldn't be the
Mm,
same story. So,
that's a good point. That makes a lot of sense. As far as how the AI has affected like the ways we know we've discussed a little bit, you say how you do a back and forth with the AI to go
okay.
through the process of plotting. Has it changed the way you actually approach like character development itself, like fleshing out the characters? Have you ever gone back and forth there to get the AI's input on like maybe character traits, personality traits,
Oh,
things like that?
absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, last night I figured out that the hero in my current story needs a much bigger, a much more traumatic backstory. And so I haven't had a chance today to sit down and go over that, but I certainly will.
And what prompted that realization? What were you doing with the AI to come to that realization?
Actually, I was reading another book
Oh,
and I
you
saw,
went the old school route.
yes, and the character motivation in that book was so much stronger than my own character motivation. But, you know,
Okay,
I
well,
need
that's
to fix this.
yeah, 100%. Like we could get inspiration from anywhere. If not, even if we are using the AI, there's still inspiration that we could plug into the AI, like something like
Mhm,
that. You can
definitely.
get into the AI. What the difference is. One of the things I've learned is like a comparison. Like I want my character to be this. This is how they are. What do I need to change about this character to make them fit into what I want? It's one of the
Mhm,
things that works for me.
yeah. So my husband, I'll turn it off.
Should I be running from a boulder?
It may be. Okay.
Excuse me.
That was one
All right.
thing that the AI couldn't tell me. Hey, this character needs a more stronger backstory,
Mhm.
more psychological. Uh, I had to figure that out myself.
Yeah, and so there are still some limitations to AI with that because the AI can help you write a book. The AI can't tell you exactly what a good book is because
Mhm.
it could go off the numbers it can find on the internet, but it's not going to know what's really going to connect with an audience emotionally. So,
And it can, in this current book,
Mhm.
I was asking it for the first chapter what what it wanted. And it wanted more description. It wanted more showing the relationship between the people. It wanted, and by the time you threw all that into the first chapter, you just had this huge info dump that was boring, boring, boring.
Yeah, I've had that. Yeah, it's always fun to have to go back and edit. You see that wall of text, you're like, oh, what did I do? that initial, oh God. When integrating the AI with your actual works, what challenges that have you faced, or maybe you think beginning or intermediate or even advanced writers using AI might face when trying to integrate the AI into your work, whether it's a new work or versus, like you were saying, work in progress?
Yeah. We talked about the work in progress, that you need to let the AI know all of your setting, all of your backstory, all of your world building, all of your characters, because it's in your head, but it's not in the AI's database. And it's just, especially beginning writers get frustrated because it's in your head so clearly, but you can't get it on the paper that way. So that is one of the main things. And the other thing is that you have to absolutely know that the AI is not going to do it all for you. It's not going to come out perfect, and it's not going to, if you don't prompt it, it won't be what you had in mind at all.
Yeah. And sometimes even when you do prompt it, it's still not going to be what you're
That's
expecting.
true. That's true.
Because like we said, it depends on the moon and the sun and the sky, how many pieces
Yeah.
of pollen in the air.
Now, looking at you, Claude,
That's actually the one that was throwing me off today. It found 20 tapestries to send characters into other worlds to, but it couldn't find a little box on a table.
Mhm.
Go figure. And then as far as like the latest technologies, latest advancements, how there's so much, everything is in such flux. We are like on the bleeding edge. How do you find that you have the best success or you're able to keep up with all these different advantages, all these changes that the AI is going through?
FFA helps me with that a whole lot. And that and talking to people in the industry, there's not that many of us out here on the bleeding edge, I don't think. And we can share things and, hey, did you hear about this new whatever? Maybe art AI or new engine or new model or whatever. And so that really helps.
Definitely. I agree. There's a lot of people in our group, like you were saying with the FFA, we have so many people that are just, they're so knowledgeable and they're out there, they're doing their own research and they're bringing it back to the group because it's a huge collective and it's all like one creative mass of people just trying to help each other, which I think is great because when you are on the bleeding edge, having a supportive group is that could be the difference between you sticking with it and you just giving up and throwing your
Right.
hands up.
And I think that some of the people that are really the most disappointed with AI are the ones coming in expecting a stable platform, expecting, okay, give me the answers. I want a manual for how this works. If we wrote a manual for how it works, it would be out of date by the time we hit the last page. You can't do that. And
Depending
that's
on the
one thing.
length.
Yeah, well, maybe that, but you need to, and that's one thing about the live classes, the live videos, is that you can talk about the latest things. And this is no different than any other thing because when publishing started up, I had a blog on self-publishing and I had all these plans. I had my posts scheduled out, right? But I never could get to the scheduled post because there was always some breaking news in the industry. Something new, something changed.
And that becomes a lot to keep up with just because we're not just dealing with the tech itself. We're dealing with multiple companies that are approaching the tech in different ways. You
Right.
go out there and there's not, in comparison to other technology, there's not a lot out there, but there's enough to be very confusing when you have new things like coming out. Open Router has 5 new things coming out every second, it seems.
There's always, you've got the new models, which are OpenAI's, some of the models, and the different companies coming out with their own models. And then you've got the front ends into that. And there's a whole lot more companies of those that are building their own front ends. And those front ends also have programming that go into that reach into the models and tweak some that way. And right now, doing the startups, all the techie people that, gee, this would be cool. They're all getting into startups of either coming up with their own model or coming up with their own front end. And so there's a whole lot of companies, and it's gonna. I think the number is right now is going to increase, and then it's going to decrease as some of these, oh, it would be fun, but it's not fun anymore, so I'm going to get out of it. So
And when
you
it
have to figure
decreases,
out. You have to figure out what works for you.
yeah.
You
And when it
can't try them
decreases,
all.
yeah. You feel like when it decreases, there's gonna be a little bit more stabilization of like uh like not most of it, but some of the AI is actually like giving similar results. Some of the AI is more, how to prompt and the prompt is going to stay consistent over different LLMs. You feel like that's going to happen as things mellow out and less people are just putting everything out there?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to happen, but I think the models are going to mature. And as they
Gotcha.
mature, they'll be more consistent. But I think that, say, Claude is always going to be different than the Chat GPTs.
Yeah.
Uh, and that way you're going to pick the one that works best for you. And you can mix and match them. They mix and match very well.
Yeah. They really do, especially if you have a platform that helps you do that.
Mhm.
I know one of the frustrations when I was first getting into AI was copy and pasting. If I'm using 3 different LLMs, I'm copying and pasting
Mhm.
together, and
Mhm.
so I know, so finding a platform that actually allows something like that, like, where you could change it, there's quite a few out there right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
FFA has one, we have the Sudowrite, we have a bunch out there that do similar things. They don't all do things the same way, and they don't all do things, like, for the same audience, but they are still all allowing you to use different LLMs, so I think that's gonna come into play too,
Mhm.
because you can only cram so many of those LLMs into a software before it becomes overwhelming.
And everybody, I think, will get to a point where you pick your favorites.
Mhm.
If you have this kind of a scene, you want to use this LLM. If you have this kind of scene, you want this one.
Yeah.
If you're doing not safe for work, then it's another one.
Yeah, and I was gonna say right now, it really seems like we have that split just between safe for work and not safe for work, but
Mhm.
eventually that might change based on we can even have LLMs that a certain LLM for a genre, different genres, different types
Mhm.
of things as things progress, I feel.
Exactly. And now we're getting into fine tuning where
Mm.
we can train it on our own work and our own work per genre, our own work per subgenre. So we'll have a model that if I want a love scene, I'm going to use this model. If I want an action scene, I'm going to use this model.
100%. And I've actually seen recently, there's actually pretty impressive fine tunes I'm seeing people come out with. We've been doing it a lot in the FFA, and there's some students that have already done it, like obviously some of the staff members, instructors as well, where they've trained it off of their own stuff. Obviously, you do it off your own work.
Yes.
We don't condone doing it off of anyone else's work. Your
No,
own work, please. But when
absolutely.
you do that, yeah, when you do that, I'm seeing these people getting results back, which is almost not exact, but almost identical to what they would write themselves. And
Mhm.
it's just mind blowing, like how quickly things are progressing, how quickly things are like improving with just the fine tuning. I don't know if you've tried any
Absolutely.
fine tuning, if you've watched the videos on it, but it's actually not that complex either if you have something to help you with the JSON code.
Yeah, I'm just now getting into that some because for the most part, I don't write the not safe for work stuff. And I can get close to what I want with the major models.
Oh, great. Yeah.
But now I'm dabbling a little bit in, and one of the things I'm really trying hard to do is I've always written with humor, and the AI does not know how to do humor. It cannot do humor. It thinks that humor is spilling drinks on each other.
It's a slapstick.
Yeah, just and so I'm looking back at some of my older stuff that has the humor that I like in it and building fine tuned models from that.
I'd love to see some results for that once you get it done. That sounds really
Okay.
fun. As far as AI, has that influenced your understanding of your audience at all? Like when you're brainstorming with it, does it give you any insights to what people might be looking for that maybe you didn't think of before?
I've been a part of the romance writing industry forever since I'm a founding member of RWA. And so I have a very, very good handle on the audience. And I also have a book promotion business. And I know where my audience is. I know what their stats are. I know. So that's not the kind of thing I really ask AI about
Mhm.
because I think I have a better handle on it than probably it
Yeah.
does.
For someone that doesn't have the extensive amount of knowledge, do you think the AI could assist them with that, or do you think the
Oh,
AI is not there
absolutely.
yet? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That
Because
would
it,
be interesting.
what it does best is analyze data.
Mhm.
And it has been fed all this data. And of course, Amazon has all this reader profiles. Google has all this profiles for everybody. So the information is there. So if you want to know about your audience, do ask the AI.
Yeah. And that's actually pretty, you could compile like
Mhm.
comparisons, like even different questions about it, compile that into kind of get like a reader profile, maybe.
Yeah,
computer from
exactly.
it.
Exactly. And in fact, I wrote a reader profile plugin for pseudowrite that
Oh,
does
did
it.
you? Oh, nice. I haven't seen that one. I have to
But
check it out. That's cool.
no, but so that, and I've had, especially like in the classes where I'm being asked to demonstrate the tools on genres I don't write, I have gone to the AI looking for information about the style of that genre, the audience for that genre.
And yeah, that's actually really smart. Like, especially in a classroom environment too, just showing people how to do that, I think is pretty powerful because a lot of times that's all someone really needs is that kind of nudge of what to do
Right,
to really get
right.
into it. Have you
What's
ever had
this subgenre apart from this subgenre?
exactly. So have you done that a lot, like in classes where people that's one of the like big questions people have is just how to do that? Or
Mhm, mhm. And how to take that, and I've had some success with taking the sample that the AI gives me about what the style for this genre is, and then feeding it into the style tools in some of the products.
okay. And you've had pretty good results with that.
I I've had mixed results. It's either
Yeah.
very good or very bad. It's typical AI.
That makes sense. Oh Lord, that's funny. We've really touched on this already, but just like as far as the AI helping overcoming writer's block, do you have any suggestions for people watching this interview that maybe they're coming into AI because they have the writer's block of maybe a few things that the ways they could approach AI to help work around that?
It depends on what the block is. If it's I can't sit down and get started, then you can say, give me 10 premises for XX genre. If your characterization is lacking, you can all the AIs understand all of the common characterization structures. So if you want Myers-Briggs, if you want enneagrams, if you want character diamonds, whatever you want, you can ask it to help flesh out your characters. If it's your plot or if you've written yourself into a corner and it's where I go from here, you can ask for suggestions about how I can get out of this, or if you, like me, if conflict is one thing I don't like, and so I have to always look for conflict. So what would be conflict here? What would be a complication?
That's good. So just really using it to just fill in the gaps where you feel like maybe you're not the strongest.
Yeah. So you find out where your weak spots is and then go for that.
Well, that's really good advice. I think that a lot of people will take that to heart and modify their process. Because I think one thing is like newer people, they'll come. It's almost like banging your head against the wall. You're trying to shove everything at the AI to try to get what you want, but you can't feed it too much because when you feed it too much, you confuse it. And it's
Right.
really just like find where you need it and use it, and don't leave yourself out of the equation. Don't rely 100% on the AI because that's not going to work either.
Right. And that, once again, that's like a beginning writer. If you take a manuscript from somebody that really has not written, they may have read a lot, but they haven't written a lot, which is exactly where the AI is.
Mhm.
And you can't tell them everything wrong about it at once. You can't say your plot stinks, your characterization's off, there's no emotion, there's no sensory. Do one thing at a time. You can actually layer, and this is what I do in editing. I've done that before AI and I do it with AI. Is okay, add sensory details, add emotion, add conflict, and make a separate pass for each one.
Mhm. Now, between those passes, say the first pass is you don't add details. Do you then edit it before you do the next pass of adding
Oh
emotion, or
yes,
you just okay?
yes,
So you're just like a multi-editing process. I
right,
know some people I've spoke to, they do each process like you're saying, but then they don't edit till the end, and then they're not happy with the results because there's so much jumbled in there. So I think
hmm
that's an important thing to know is too constantly editing and making sure your work makes sense before you move on to the next stage.
yeah, and you're training it, not like training data, but the every AI that I know of reads before it writes.
Mhm.
And so if you leave stuff in there that you don't, you're going to get more stuff that you don't like.
Mhm. That's it's It's, what you put in. If you put bad in, you're going to get bad out.
Right.
I'm putting a lot more nicely than the phrase goes, but you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Everybody in IT knows that phrase.
Pretty much, yes. So, what advice would you give to like creatives who might be hesitant to use AI in their work right now, whether it be just intimidation or just worry about how it's going to be construed? Do you have advice for people like that right now?
I would say just get in and get started. Like I said, bring in a project that you're not invested in, play around with it. Uh, if if you want to publish it under a pseudonym that nobody knows about, if nobody knows anything about you're using AI, but you really can't criticize it until you actually know what it does and what it is.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think right now some of the loudest voices are the ones who probably haven't used it and are just afraid that it might be what people are claiming it is, even though it's not the
Yeah.
boogeyman right now.
You can tell by what they say that they don't understand it at all. They don't understand
Yeah.
how it works. So just you be you.
Mhm.
And if you want to try it out, certainly try it out. The classes, the live classes are invaluable. And I know that FFA has lots of live classes. Soonerite has lots of live classes. I think Novel Crafter has videos, I know, and they all have, and I know I'm missing out a lot of them, but these are the ones I'm most familiar with. They all have like Discord channels where you can get help there. So just start to learn. Find
100%.
out what it's all about.
Yeah. Dip your toe in the water before you make your decision if you're going to
Mhm.
jump in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you've done a lot in the industry. You said you've done marketing, you've done promotions. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the companies you've started or actually are involved with right now that are doing that and just put them out there for people to know about?
I'm really not advertising much for the, but I do. I have built a large audience of romance readers, and I would love to help anybody that's having trouble with getting their romances out there. And for groups like FFA, just DM me. I won't charge you. I won't just let me know and I'll see how you do it. I have my major audience is on a Facebook page. It's called I Love Romance Novels, but it also has Instagram and Twitter, X, whatever it is this week, and other platforms that I do advertise to. And I quit taking private clients because I just don't have time for that. And I it takes a lot of energy to do that. But like I said, teaching's my passion. So I'm really want to help anybody I can.
That's
You
great.
know.
Yeah. And that's what we need right now with AI is just people being willing to put themselves out there and help because that's the only way we're going to get rid of the stigmas if more people learn
Right.
about the truth about it and how it
Right.
works. Because
Yeah.
I see a lot of things about these, the AI is the boogeyman. It's going to put us out of work. Just one button push solution. And I don't know if the AI is ever going to be there. I can't see into the future, unfortunately. If I could, I've already won the lottery 5 times. But I think no matter what, I mean, we just need to stop and take a step back and take a deep breath and just learn about what is going on because it's the same as with the internet. People were opposed to that, like you were saying, like with TradPub, with the internet. A lot of people will have opposition, and a lot of this is just based on fear. And if people just step back and learn about it before they make their judgments, I think they have a better chance of actually embracing this and not getting left behind. Because unfortunately, some people are going to get left behind.
Yeah. Like you said, you have to keep up with the latest tools.
Mhm.
And all AI is a tool. It will never be able to write on its own. I could
Mhm.
have this computer here and say, okay, write a book. It's good. It's a paperweight without me, you know. And the AI engines are the same thing. It needs the human creativity to get it going and get it. I think the writing it generates will improve, but you have to have the writing skills to know whether that writing is good or not. You have to know what's wrong with it.
100%. Lynn, this has been amazing. I really appreciate your time and taking the time to sit with us. Again, this is Lynn Jordan. She's a member of FFA. She also teaches classes with Pseudowrite. She's are you ambassador over there? Are you staff member? I'm not
Yes,
sure.
I'm an ambassador and a teacher. I'm not a staff member.
Okay, so she's ambassador over at Pseudowrite as well. Amazing teacher. I've actually sat in some of her classes over there. She's actually done some guest classes with FFA as well. So if you're a member of FFA, you should go check those out because she's very knowledgeable. She does a lot of classes about the Pseudowrite stuff, which is great. Because I know like with FFA, we're really big on education. So a lot of our users are using our software Rexy in addition to Pseudowrite, in addition to just using ChatGPT, because it's really a conglomeration to find what works for you. There's not there's not going to be one fix for everyone. And so that's what we're promoting. That's one thing that Lynn's promoting, is just putting it out there that we all need to work together on this. To quote the AI cliche,
Together.
just together.
And just because I try using every tool that comes down the pike, you don't have to.
In fact, with a lot of times, because we're using every tool that comes down the pike, we could tell you which ones might work for you. It saves a little bit of time too. But again, thank you very much. We'll put a link to the FFA Discord down here, as well as the Pseudowrite Discord. And then I won't put your DM in there just because this is going out on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
But I will put the links to the actual servers that if people join up, if you want to reach, or if they want to reach out to you. Then
And I do have a YouTube channel under my name, Lynn Jordan.
Oh, perfect. Give me that link. We'll actually include that in the notes too, as well,
Okay.
to get through some people over there. All right. Thank you again, Lynn. Again, I'm Michelle with the Future Fiction Academy. And right down below is how you could join. We'd love to see you there at the FFA. We have a really good group of people, a lot of education going on there, not just in our software, but in Pseudowrite, in ChatGPT, and everything. So I hope to see you all there. Thank you again, Lynn. Do you have any parting advice or words for our audience?
Just go write. Try it
There
out.
you go.
Happy writing.
Perfect. There you go. Happy writing. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you later.
All right, so that concludes our very first FFA Presents with Lynn Jordan. I know Lynn's not here at this exact moment, but thank you, Lynn, when you're watching this. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. I will be doing another one the last Wednesday of February, and then each last Wednesday of the month for the foreseeable future, I'll be doing an interview with a different person who's either a writer using AI or someone in the AI industry that in some way relates to the writing process. So we have a lot of exciting things going on. Thank you all for joining me again. Thank you, We're Cynical. I enjoyed having you here. Thank you, everyone else. And I wish you all a good day, and ta-ta.